everyone, welcome to the 2020 Make It Big conference. I'm your host, Beatrice Este with Big Commerce, and today I'm here with Saloni Doshi, CEO of EcoEnclose. Saloni, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm excited to dive into all things sustainability and e-commerce. But before we do, I would love to have you kick things off by introducing yourself and telling us how you got started in the sustainability and e-commerce space.
Yeah, so my name is Saloni Doshi. I'm the CEO of EcoEnclose, and we do what we consider the world's most sustainable e-commerce packaging. We offer a variety of different packaging options for any e-commerce business, and we really pride ourselves in making every aspect of that package sustainable. So 100% recycled wherever possible, curbside or easily recycled, and then sustainable ink, sustainable adhesives. We're based in Colorado, and my husband and I actually bought this business about 5 years ago.
So what does it mean to be a sustainable and a transparent company?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think they're two very similar concepts, but have very unique parts of them. So when I think about what it means to be a sustainable business, simple answer is it's about running a business in a way that isn't just about how much money you make, but you're also thinking about the impact that you're having on the planet and on society and your community and your people, and trying as hard as you can to generate a positive impact, and certainly at least on the planetary side, minimizing the negative impact that you're having. On the flip side, I think transparency is really around having no hidden agendas and not keeping things secret. So being very open with your customers about who are your suppliers, how are you paying your employees, what sort of materials are going into your products, what kind of chemicals are you using, how are you disposing of those chemicals. So all of those little things about running your business, I think being transparent is about being very open with sharing that with customers and making it really easy for them to see that information about you.
We've seen sustainability and transparency on the rise for a couple of years now, but why right now? Why is the focus on sustainability and transparency?
Yeah, the time is definitely now. It's a really exciting time. I can even feel it from, like I said, we bought the business 5 years ago and it was niche 5 years ago. And now it seems like it's becoming mainstream. So it is exciting. As somebody who's very ecologically passionate, I'm just really thrilled to see the trends. I think there's a couple reasons. The first is, I think when Al Gore came out with An Inconvenient Truth, it all felt like really theoretical. And I think today it feels real. They said that 2019 was the hottest year ever recorded, and people are feeling it. They're sort of looking around. They're seeing the impact of climate change in these small ways that are making it pressing. Like, is it going to happen soon? Are these effects going to be felt by our children? So I think that's one. And it's leading then this idea of sustainability is no longer like a hippie concept. I read that 14% of voters say that climate change and addressing it is their number one voting issue, which is from 2% just 4 years ago. So that's a really big jump. And I've read recently that 87% of consumers now make decisions about what companies they're supporting and what products they're buying based on the social and environmental issues that company stands for. And so I think that is just reflective of, again, the fact that this is mainstream today in a way that it wasn't just 5 years ago. And I think a lot of that comes from these issues are present, but also people are getting frustrated. They don't know how to make change just through political avenues and voting and things like that. I think they're starting to see like the way that you can make change is with your dollars. And right now, today, we are seeing that with the Black Lives Matter movement in these incredibly exciting ways. You've got companies that are taking stances or not taking stances for or against various causes around Black Lives Matter. And it's just really exciting to see, people are saying, let's put our dollars in support of the companies that are doing what we want them to do. And let's actually protest monetarily the companies that are supporting causes or supporting things that we're very much against. And so I think today it's this really unique time where you're seeing these actions making a difference in a very exciting way.
You mentioned before that sustainability and transparency are both very unique, but they do go hand in hand. Can you dive into this a little bit further for us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I touched on it a little bit earlier as well. This idea that, transparency and sustainability are two pretty unique concepts, but they certainly are overlapping. And I think, it's important to say that you can actually be a transparent company or a sustainable company and not do the other, right? You can be transparent without being sustainable or sustainable without being transparent, but a little bit of it's like, what's the point? You don't really get anything from it. And so I see them as two very like reinforcing concepts. So if you think about, okay, what does it mean to be transparent? Very simply, it might just be, hey, here's a website or a page on my website where I'm going to list, here are my suppliers, here's the materials that I use and the products that I create. Here's, how my ethics around how well I treat my people and pay my people. So if you're going to put a page like that out there, it's almost like you're putting it out there to the world, and you would not do that, or do just the act of doing that would then motivate you to say, I got to do better on all of these fronts. I got to choose a more ethical and sustainable supply chain. I've got to get better products or ingredients into my products, and I've got to pay my people and treat my people well. So, the second you start to be transparent, it motivates you to be more sustainable and ethical. And on the flip side, and I actually think this is where EcoEnclose started, where we were just passionate eco people. And we said, like, how do we create better packaging? Because we're sick of getting packages in the mail that are in environmentally unsustainable packages. So we just started going down this process. And all of a sudden we have, what I consider really advanced sustainable products. And we'd sort of say, yeah, this is recycled, this is recyclable. And as we started putting it out there, people started asking us questions like, hey, tell us about your supply chain. Tell us, if there's any Prop 65 chemicals in the adhesive of your mailer. Tell us, what you pay your employees. And they started asking us, they started saying, yeah, we got to hold EcoEnclose accountable to a really high standard of operation and transparency. And that led us to start being transparent about every small detail of our business. And that in turn led us to identify ways that we can run our business even better and share that back with our customers. So it's a little bit of a flywheel, I think, the two concepts together feeding each other to make you a better company.
And with all of this, how does it tie into e-commerce?
Yeah. EcoEnclose has a mission around our vision, I guess, is making e-commerce a force for positive change in the world. And part of the reason we created that statement is because I truly believe that e-commerce is uniquely positioned to be a platform for sustainable and transparent companies to thrive. And I say that, I think that the last time, it was a while ago now, right, with COVID, but that I walked into a boutique and bought an article of clothing, and you go in and you're like, okay, your decision is really just about like, how nice is the shirt? Does it fit me? Is the boutique nice? Do I feel good? Is the salesperson really helpful? It's a really, very specific experience just around the basic aesthetics and feeling that I get in that store. On the flip side, I think about an e-commerce site. I'm going to buy a shirt on an e-commerce site. I go to that website. I check the About Us section. I understand who the founders are, what their values are. I then go to the product page and I see, oh, wow, it's made of organic cotton and it was made in this factory. And you sort of feel this connection to the company and the product in a way that really doesn't happen in a retail environment. And I am then motivated to make the purchase by these values that I believe in, again, that you don't really feel in retail. So I just think that e-commerce is really well set up to propel forward these types of businesses and make them successful. So I think that's why e-commerce. And then I think if you're an e-commerce company that maybe hasn't really given thought to sustainability and transparency, why I would encourage somebody to do this and do it well is, I think about all the things that you pay for to help you draw people to your site and help you convert them at the highest rate possible. I think that really good investments in transparency and sustainability cause this to happen without you having to pay like these high customer acquisition costs. So, let's say you create this incredible sustainable supply chain with the factories that you work with. That's a PR story. That's 10 social media posts. That's a blogger partnership, an influencer partnership that are going to that can happen to you for free. And then, somebody's on your page and they're motivated and excited about something you've done. That's going to be increased conversion, again, that you're sort of getting for free after you've made these investments. So I think e-commerce is, again, uniquely suited to be a place that propels these companies forward. And if you're an e-commerce brand, you're going to find added value if you make these investments in a way that may not be as much so for an independent boutique on Main Street.
So if a brand decides that sustainability or transparency or even partnering with a charitable organization is important to the business, how do they go about integrating that part of their story with their overall brand strategy?
before you weave it into your story, I would just encourage any company to do the work first. And it doesn't have to be years upon years of perfecting your organization or product in support of whatever social or environmental issue you deem the right one for you. But take the time to do the work and be authentic and real in the investments that and changes you're making. Once you've done that and feel like your momentum is there, I think there's a ton of ways. But first and foremost, I think, let's take the example of you've decided to become more sustainable, and that might mean revisiting characteristics of your product and the types of materials you source from it. First and foremost, that information should show up on your website in the right place for a customer. So there's a company called Everlane. It's an apparel company that I think does a really nice job. Every time you go to a product, you then read in the specs, it'll say things about sizing and, it's made of elastic cotton or whatever. And then it'll say, this product is made in this specific factory in this specific country. And then here are the environmental benefits of this product. So it's just in your face when you're buying the product. I think that immediately is the type of transparency that will be noticed. And again, it will improve your conversion rates. I think other places, on your homepage of your site, there could be a link to a page where you're documenting all the things that you're doing and the improvements that you anticipate making. So really, I think a scrub of your website to understand where the right information should live. And then, other places, obviously social media, each time you make a change, promoting it on social media and then finding avenues to share it from more of an influencer and a PR perspective. And then I think as companies get bigger, annual reports are really interesting, where maybe here's an annual report that says, I set these goals for myself, for this company, as it relates to sustainability, or again, whatever social issue you may have chosen. And then here's the progress I made. And annual reports like that sort of feel maybe old fashioned, but they are an interesting tool to keep you accountable.
It always comes back to the customer. So with that, where and how are customers looking for more transparency from brands?
I've been inspired personally by some of our company's websites. So I think, first and foremost, I'm shocked by how many people go to the About Us or the Who We Are page on a website. So make sure your About Us or Who We Are, whatever it is on your site, is easy to find and actually says your story. And that if you are a company that is focused on social issues or environmental issues, that they're up front and center in that page. I think alluding to it on your homepage in a really clear way is important, so that as soon as somebody gets to your site, they can feel like, okay, this is a company that has transparency and sustainability or some social issue baked into who they are. And that will then prompt people to find the information, in your blog or in your resources, et cetera. And then I go back to, I think the product pages are really interesting because depending on what you sell, that's where people are going to spend a lot of time looking at the specifications and the features, et cetera. And I think having those, making sure that your investments in sustainability are clearly delineated there as much as you can will go a long way, because anybody who's actually making a purchase is probably looking at that material. So those are three sort of I say quick wins. They're hard to do, but they're important places to start from. And then I think it's to build your brand, to build a brand around the investments that you're making. Regular content on your blog is really important. And then creating maybe a resource. So let's say you're a makeup company that has made some investments here. Maybe you have a resource guide that says, okay, well, if you're a consumer that's making sustainable choices, here's some tips on how, what to look for, what ingredients to select, what ingredients not to select, and why. So you start to educate your customers on your site through various resources, and that education solidifies you as a thought leader in whatever space you are and you're trying to make waves in.
I think it's really interesting with sustainability, because I do believe that many, many brands want to make changes to become more sustainable. But it's always one thing that stands in the way, and that is cost and budget. Walk us through a little bit about what the impact of sustainability actually means for businesses when it comes down to cost.
First and foremost, recognize that there are going to be elements of this that certainly do cost more money. And that's just, how it is, right? If it didn't cost more money to be sustainable, then everybody would be sustainable, right? Capitalism would just allow sustainability to be the norm. So I think it's important that we recognize that being a better, more ethical, sustainable company will cost money. And then I think it's about sitting down and first identifying what is important to you, because even within sustainability, it could be some companies are going to say, hey, I want to take out all plastic from my entire operation because I'm really moved by the plastic-free sort of movement. Some people will say my goal is to really minimize my carbon footprint as much as possible and find ways to reduce that. Other companies might say, my goal is to be able to use as much waste as possible and minimize the waste that I'm creating. So first, I think it's like, let's take this big concept of sustainability and narrow it down to what it's going to mean for you. And then you start to make decisions and recognize that maybe the decisions do cost money. So let's pretend you're an apparel company and you use sort of traditional cotton. You've always sort of sourced the cheapest cotton possible. And then you start to look at and you say, oh my God, there's so much water and so much pesticide use associated with this cotton. And you decide that you really want to focus on that type of issue to solve. Okay, well then maybe you move to organic cotton. That's a pretty big premium on what you're sourcing. So you say, okay, well, I can't afford to do it today and price my products the same way that I can. Okay, well, maybe I can either make a small improvement or just start a sustainable line where I get the opportunity to price that product at a premium over what I currently sell. And then slowly start to take that and move it into my own product set and start to, again, you got to start pricing your products higher because again, this is going to cost more and it's going to cost more for your customers. So I just think sitting down, figuring out what's important to you, starting to identify the changes that you can make, and then understanding, okay, how can I stepwise make them and weave them into my business? And in many times, pass on some of that added cost to your customer in the form of a higher price point, but do it gradually in a way that is appropriate and meaningful and right for your relationship with your customer. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is that there's a lot of things that you can do that when in support of sustainability that actually don't cost money, right? There's things about how much energy you use in your warehouse operation and your factory or how much water is consumed that if you start to look at it and try to reduce it, it's actually could be a fairly significant cost savings depending on the type of operation you run. They're less sexy changes, but they are, so again, cost saving changes that you can make in support of your goal. And then, for some companies, think about this a little bit of like risk mitigation. You saw like Facebook, everybody boycotted Facebook because the stances or the things that they weren't doing to censor, content on their site. You're seeing companies that are either funding the wrong thing or not taking stances getting boycotted. So, that might not be true for a lot of small businesses, but for some businesses, making some of these investments is actually just a way to keep you relevant and to prevent some sort of big issue that might happen to you longer term.
And do you think that small businesses are equipped enough from the beginning to be sustainable and transparent?
I think as a small business, it might feel overwhelming to do it, but a small business, especially one just starting out where you may not have thousands upon thousands of customers who have an expectation about your price point, the idea of sourcing sustainably and bringing ethics into everything that you do is actually pretty easy. I mean, you don't have that many suppliers. You don't have that many products. You can rethink everything in a pretty simple way. And you don't need to buy probably 50,000 units at a time. And if that's the size of company you are, where you can buy in small batch and you don't have a lot of product set, rethinking some of this, it's actually pretty straightforward to do. And if you do it now, then it becomes part of how you operate so that hopefully when you're 5-10x as big as you are right now, your whole product set is built with these values in mind and you don't have to go back and fix everything.
How can e-commerce brands review their efforts around sustainability and transparency, and how can they identify areas where they can best improve?
The first thing I would encourage any company or founder or CEO to do is to just read and get really smart about the issues, and again, sort of find some way to narrow a little bit about where you really want to focus your attention. So if it's sustainability, there's a handful of books that you might read to get comfortable and somewhat rooted in these ideas of what it means to be a sustainable business, and maybe bloggers to follow or things like that. So take some time to do that, then start to engage your team in, again, aligning on areas that you really want to focus on. What do you as a company want to stand for? And some of that will come from you looking at your product set and your company and understanding where are you making the most, where are you having the most negative impact. So again, if you're an apparel company, a lot of it the worst negative impact might be in the fabrics that you're selecting or the ethics in the factories that you're sourcing from. If you're a food company, it might be in, are you sourcing, conventional or organic products? Are you sourcing from, the right regions and things like that? So just looking at the products and again, your operations and seeing where you might be having an impact that you want to a negative impact that you want to lessen. And then sort of building a plan from there. Like it might be, okay, well, this quarter I want to make one change. Next quarter I'm going to make 2 changes. So creating just a project plan about the changes that you can make and the impact that you can have. I think that's one way. That's the way that I typically recommend because it comes from the heart a little bit. Other companies I know start out by doing something like taking the B Corp assessment. So any company can go and take the B Corp is a company that will basically give you a rating to say, here's how beneficial you as a company are for society based on everything from, again, how you pay your employees to how you run your operation and think about the energy use in your operation to what how you source your products, et cetera. So that's an interesting way to get a holistic snapshot of here's my score, here's my B Corp score. And B Corp also then gives you a set of ways that you can improve. And then if you want, you can pay. If you have a certain score, you can pay to become B Corp certified, which then gives you like a label you can put on your website to say, hey, you did enough to meet this good bar of like, yes, you're a good company. So I think that's a good frameworky way to think about it if you don't have the bandwidth or the ability to immerse yourself in it and sort of run that process yourself. Something like B Corp is a way to guide you through that process in this sort of objective framework way. I think the benefits are great. It's an incredible opportunity. But I think the setbacks to me is that, again, you may not find yourself having it come from the heart, and you may not find yourself going as deep in issues and instead more like checking off boxes. So you've really got to figure out what's the right approach for your company.
We know that becoming more sustainable and more transparent isn't an overnight process. It's something that companies really need to continue striving for and develop, even 5 to 10 year plans to accomplish. But help us understand what it actually means to accomplish or know that you're doing well when it comes to addressing your sustainable and transparent efforts.
I'm going to take them as 2 separate questions. So I think the first is, how do you know that you're being as transparent as you can be? That I actually think is a little bit more finite. I know that I can tell some of it by the fact that we get fewer questions about our products because we're giving all the information away on our site. 2 years ago, people would ask us about a lot of minutia about our products. Again, like, tell me about your adhesives. Is your adhesive vegan? Tell me how much you pay your lowest paid workers. Tell me everything about the factories that you work with and have you audited them? And now we're making all of this information really clear in a bill of materials on our site. And so it's not preventing us, but customers don't have to ask us these questions because we're just putting all that information out there. So that's one way. I think the best way is that you know that you have a documentation about almost everything possible about how you run your business and make your products, and you put it again on your site so that anytime somebody has a question, there's a page that you can direct them to that has the answer. So I think that there is a way to almost like win or achieve a high level of effectiveness when it comes to transparency. On the sustainability or even the social impact side, if sustainability isn't your impact area, I actually think like you can't ever know you got there because if you got there, I guess you started running a business that's net positive, where every time you sell a product, you've actually benefited the planet in some meaningful way. So I think, to me, you'll know you got there if you are constantly finding new ways to improve your business in support of the issue you've chosen. But those improvement areas don't bring you down. They actually energize you, where you're like, oh, wait, I think about it for us. It's like we've got mailers, and they each have this, like, you open the mailer and there's a release liner that you pull off to release, so that the sticky part of it shows and you can close the mailer. That release liner for us is not recycled or recyclable. So now it's like our pet project of like, how do we make a recyclable release liner? That to me, maybe if you just start the foray of sustainability, you're like, oh God, like, I don't even know how to get there. I think when you're truly a sustainable business, you're like, that's awesome. Like, I can't wait to fix that, because that's just one way to continue improving my product set and my company.
Tell me about some of the industries that have been making great strides to become more eco-friendly.
Industries that are highly, that are making really cool changes. I think, honestly, it's happening everywhere. So I'll just rattle off a couple that I'm really excited by. I think apparel is an obvious one. This sort of move away from fast fashion into slow fashion is taking the industry by storm, I think. And it's really cool. And it's where I'm seeing the most amount of transparency, to be honest. And I mentioned earlier, Everlane. There's companies like Reformation. There's just tons of companies now that are doing everything from how they source their products. Maybe they're taking Reprieve, which is fabric made from recycled bottles. They're taking that fabric and they're making their clothes out of recycled plastic or organic cotton or bamboo or hemp. And then they are sharing with the world exactly where each individual item was made and how much the people who made that item were paid. And then they are, oftentimes taking back gently worn clothes that they can repair or resell. And just, it's just really exciting to see. And I look back and I think like Patagonia is probably the jet setter or the stage setter in this area. And I think everything that they're doing is now becoming a little bit more commonplace. And again, the e-commerce platform lets you share the story in a way that no retail environment really ever could. I see it a lot in beauty. I think there's a lot now being done about everything from, people are recognizing that the organic food movement, we actually have to think about it for our bodies as well, right? The skin is the biggest organ. What you put on your face is so important, or your skin is so important. And so you're seeing beauty companies that are thinking about, again, what are they sourcing from both the toxins and health perspective, but also like what's the impact of what they're sourcing on the planet. And then beauty products are interesting because they go down the drain. So you're seeing a lot of companies that are, conscious of like, okay, what kind of impact does this product have when it goes down the drain now that we're all hyper conscious of microplastics in the water. So it's another area. I think this is not an industry and more of a raw material. One of the biggest pollutants in marine environments is like what they call ghost nets, like discarded fishing lines that just get tossed into the ocean. It's, like something like 50% plus of the plastic we find is this. And so there's really cool companies that are taking that and turning it into products, everything from like bathing suits to skateboards to surfboards. So I just think that's cool, this idea of like, how do you take our hardest to find and use waste and turn it into products that, have durability and can be used for a long time. So I just really get excited about those types of companies. So those are just three, I guess, to start off.
And last but not least, for those tuning into this session, what are a few key takeaways you'd like them to walk away with?
So I think that a couple takeaways that I would love for somebody to take away from this session, or three takeaways that I'd love for people to take away from this session. I think the first is understanding or being compelled that issues of sustainability and transparency are worthwhile ones for an e-commerce company to pursue, that they are incredibly important for the planet and its people, but also that they can help you build a great organization that is more successful than you are today if you make those investments strategically and authentically. I think the second takeaway that I hope that you have is that there are ways to make them that, yes, may have some cost associated with it, but there could be a tremendous upside in your ROI from the perspective of having an opportunity to increase your pricing and have a more premium product, from improving your customer acquisition costs, improving your conversion rates, creating more of a brand story that has value to it. And then also risk mitigation, that the ROI could be that you're staving off some potential issue that you might otherwise face if you don't take a stand or you don't start making these investments. And then I think the third is that I hope you take away that if you want to do this, if you're making some of these investments, to do it authentically and to not be performative and to not greenwash, and to start to see and know that consumers are smarter today than they ever have been before, and they have access to more information than they ever have before. So if you sit down as a leadership team and say, this is something I want to go all in on, I do it all in. Don't make like one or two investments, say that you were there, I did a great job, and move on, because people will sniff that out and then it becomes sort of a negative downside to your business rather than upside.
Well, thank you so much, Saloni, for joining us and for sharing everything you know about sustainability and transparency, and of course, for being part of the 2020 Make It Big conference.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's fun.
That was such a great session with Saloni Doshi, CEO of EcoEnclose. Be sure to engage with us on social media using the hashtag MakeItBigConf and share what you've learned. If you're looking for more insights, be sure to tune into more Make It Big conference sessions by heading over to www.bigcommerce.com/makeitbig.